Thank you all for joining us this Saturday morning when the sun is shining in the Pacific Northwest. We are so happy to have you here to experience the judges training given by our chief judge in District 2, Michael Scheele. And he has put this together so that we can put this on our District 2 YouTube site so everyone can benefit. So if my ask of everyone here is to spread the word if you enjoyed this training and to let your teams know to just watch this when they start to induce panic in February when their deadlines approach. And with that, I would love to introduce our esteemed Chief Judge for District 2, Michael Scheele. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. Glad you could come. And in the virtual sense, I am sort of right there with you on the screen. Of course, literally, I'm in Redmond, Washington, as we had discussed. Important clarification depending on where you happen to be or where you're from. But when you think of contests, what are the most indispensable roles for it? Is it the contest chair? Well, for our organization and putting it on, they're definitely invaluable. The contest Toastmaster. If you don't have a contest Toastmaster, you really don't have a good contest. Obviously, without contestants, there's no point. There's no contest to be had. But how do you determine which of those contestants will move forward in the process? You need judges. And contest judges are what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. Contest judges training. Yep, as Sarah had mentioned, I am your District 2 Chief Judge. This year, unlike previous years under COVID, we had 2 contests, not just one. We're having the International Speech Contest. Of course, can't have it without the International Speech Contest. Excellent contest, and we're all going to be able to experience in one way or another some superb speeches in the process. But we also have the evaluation contest. We'll be able to enjoy hearing some of the finest evaluators in the district give their feedback to test speakers. That too will prove educational and entertaining for everyone. Now, I don't know if Sarah has mentioned this, and this does bear repeating, that we're going to have club contests going on from this time period all the way up to the deadline of February 19th. Club contest must be completed or some other selection process for advancing contestants to the area contest must be done by February 19th. And consequently, we have area contests, which all are going to be online. And this will come into play a little bit later. Clubs can do whatever they want. They can have no contest and just select the people that advance to the area contest. Or if they're going to have the contests, they need to adhere to the rules of Toastmasters contests. You don't completely get to wing it if you actually call it a contest. And plus, it helps the contestants. If you simulate the contest conditions, it will help them ease into the process of going to higher levels of competition. Likewise, the last area contest have to be completed by March 25th. So we're really looking at most of earlier and mid-March for the area contest. Then we go on to the division contest. All of the division contests must be completed by April 22nd. That does giving some time for the results to get updated so that the district contest chair and everyone else involved with the district contest have the information they need to put on a great show. And of course, May the 4th, this is the day of the district conference. Yeah. And of course, the district speech contest and evaluation contest. And this will be something that we can look forward to because it will be in person at the Maidenbauer Center. I'm sure somebody will speak to that later on. And then, of course, the winners of the International Speech Contest goes on to the path towards the World Championship of Public Speaking, going through some semifinal, final rounds, and of course, that leading to the world stage at the International Convention. Exciting stuff. Again, this is only for the International Speech Contest. Now, sort of an overview. What type of things are we going to be referring to here? And I'll just preface this by saying it will not go exactly in the order that you see here, but it will. But this is just basically a list of the items that we'll be discussing. We'll be talking about the qualifications and disqualifications for the contest judges, and also to a limited extent the contestants, because judges are the only, and contestants are the only people who may file protests for disqualifications with the chief judge. And we'll be getting to judging criteria for the two contests, some tips on procedural issues, and some resources that contest judges can access so they can do their job to the best of their abilities. Judge qualifications. At the contest level at the club, basically you just need to be a paid member. And from the area to district level, they must have been a paid member for 6 months or more. And this is something that differs from the eligibility requirements for the contestants. Legacy for the old system prior to Pathways, if they've completed 6 speeches or more from the Competent Communicator Manual under the old system, that qualifies them to be a judge, which no longer applies to international speech contestants. Under Pathways, they must have completed at least level 1 or 2 and 2 of any path under Pathways. And this is the same as it is for the international speech contestant eligibility. Going from the quarterfinals and on, we won't get to that since that's really outside of the scope of what we're doing here today. What are some things that can keep you from being a judge in a speech contest or an evaluation contest? If you are a contestant in the same contest type beyond the club level, like for instance, if you want to be a judge for the international speech contest beyond the club level, you can still compete at the club level. On the other hand, if you advance and go to the area contest or beyond, do not be a judge for that contest. You could be a judge for the evaluation contest, but international speech contest would be right out for you. We want to avoid conflicts of interests. At the division and district levels, you do not want to be a member of a club that a contestant in that contest is also a member. And that's all clubs involved, not just the one that the contestant is representing. And this is something more for your contest chair and contest chief judge. All clubs, areas and divisions must be equally represented as voting judges for the area, division, and district contests respectively. Now, one way to make sure this is the case is make sure that all of your judges are from outside of the relevant area, division, or district. That would make sure that everyone is equally represented in that they're not. But if you have judges that are from a given club that is competing in the contest, they need to make sure that you have judges from each of the relevant areas, division, or district. So that's something more for the chief judge and contest chair than it is for the individual judges. But if you notice that there is a conflict that arises from that, definitely do bring it to the attention of the relevant contest officials, because we don't want to have anything interfere with the production of the contests. And as I alluded to before, contestants can be disqualified for a number of reasons, but the only people who can raise those objections are the contestants and the judges themselves, and they would raise them with the chief judge. Now, what are some things that can disqualify a contestant? Having more than 25% of their speech content be quoting paraphrasing or referencing another person's content, or if they fail to identify such content that's included in their speech. And this is something, the next one is something that many people who've been longtime contest viewers may not be aware of, but you may not reference another contestant or their speech in the same contest. And that is a grounds for disqualification. Again, reiterate, only contestants and voting judges may lodge a protest with the chief judge or contest chair. And the contest chair may disqualify a contestant for eligibility, like say they didn't complete both levels 1 and 2. Therefore, they'd be ineligible to compete in the contest. Okay. Now, what are some resources you can get so you can read up on what are your roles and what do you need to be doing and looking for in the speeches or the evaluations? The contest, Toastmasters.org has some helpful video tutorials that you may want to take a look at. There's Judge's Guide and Ballot. There's Overview and Roles. And of course, When You're the Judge. I recommend reviewing those. That can help get you in the right mindset for being a contest judge. And the most important item that everyone involved in a speech contest should have, the speech contest rule book. And this year's rule book, not last year's or one from a couple of years ago. Make sure that it's the current years, 2023 through 2024. Something that you will be receiving from contest officials will be the Judge's Certification of Eligibility and Code of Ethics. It will list things that make you qualified to be a judge or disqualified as a judge, and a reminder of the Code of Ethics for your behavior as a contest judge. Like, for instance, one of the key things is you may not discuss the details of your judging with speech contestants. Yeah, even if you've known them for years, just to head it off and just say, no, it's unethical for me to discuss that. And it is. It just solves all the problems of, oh, you don't want to have them be able to go, oh, but this judge said, oh, you did a great job. What were the other judges thinking? You do not want to sow that type of dissent within the contest environment. Of course, the Judge's Guide and Ballot, and you will receive that in person and paper form if you go to a in-person contest, like at the division or the district level. If you have an online contest, obviously you're not going to necessarily be dealing with that, because you will have to have some means of getting the electronic results to the appropriate contest officials. Okay. Many of you were wondering, okay, what am I supposed to look for when I'm the judge? Anyone? Yeah. It's on the judge's ballot and guide. It has the criteria, and it breaks down the weighting for it. So you'll have an idea of when you're looking at the form. Okay, this is how much we weight for content. 50% in speech development, effectiveness, and speech value. In terms of delivery, that's 30%. Still substantial. Physical, voice, and manner. Of course, language, appropriateness, and correctness. Those are definitely things to keep in mind. And in many cases, that could be the difference between advancing or not advancing in the contest. Since we haven't had a while, obviously the evaluation criteria are something to study if you haven't dealt with this contest before or recently. Analytical quality, 40%. Huge chunk. Recommendations, specific recommendations, 30%. And then technique and summation. And I, as someone who has competed many times in the evaluation contest, the summation, it's only 15%. But I will say that sometimes the difference between having a summation, even a fairly perfunctory one, and omitting this can be huge. That could very well be the difference between placing and not placing, or being first or third. Definitely remind contestants to look for that. And as a judge, make sure you look for that, because when you're under time pressure, it's really easy to forget to properly sum up your thoughts for the evaluation. Some basic procedural issues. There will be a tie-breaking judge selected by the chief judge for the contest, and they will not be a part of the judges briefing. So don't be looking for them. And there's judges should be anonymous as much as practical for the contest environment. Online, you don't want to be signifying them with your descriptor as, Joe Q Public Judge. Don't do that. Obviously, towards the end of the contest, you can thank them as collectively. In person, we used to bring them up along with other contest helper roles to thank them. Up to you as contest chair, but generally speaking, try to keep the judges online. Just sort of corporately thank them if at all possible. It's just to avoid issues of contestants talking with the judges about the judging process. You just want to head that off. One thing for people who are judges, make sure that you understand clearly what the chief judge and ballot counters expect. Like, make sure you have emails or text and message numbers so that they know that they have your results for each contest. In person, this is a lot simpler because you have the paper ballot. You properly fill it out, you sign it, tear it off, and then when it comes time to vote, wait, hold it up, and a ballot counter will come collect that. And working out a set of hand signals or whatever to make sure they know, that's helpful. Again, something to consider, make sure that that you are clear with the chief judge if there is an issue of lodging a protest for contested eligibility that comes up. Make sure you know how to contact the chief judge and or the contest chair to make sure that that gets resolved properly and adjudicated. In person, as I alluded to before, make some tips. Fill out the relevant information, except for, of course, the results, and sign it, date it, and tear it off so you don't have to spend that time when voting comes around. It streamlines things for the ballot counters. Some general contest resources. There's a URL there for the speech contest. And I'm going to preface that the International Speech Contest Kit generally should take precedence for miscellaneous forms, whether it be the speech contest rule book or the timers or the ballots counter forms. Generally speaking, it's almost always the most up-to-date one. Like the recent versions of the evaluation contest kit, most things were fine, but they had last year's, I think, contest rule book. Make sure you have the correct year's rule book, even if it's in the speech contest kit. Don't trust that. Make sure you get the correct year's version. And conduct quality speech contests. This is a big honkin' PDF item 206 EG, but it's helpful for getting an idea of some of the concerns for the speech contest. You just generally ignore the ones that aren't pertaining to judges if you're a judge. I want to leave most of the time here for questions. Questions of things that I haven't covered or things you needed clarification for. So someone you field and take a look at a show of hands, raise your hand
I have a
electronically.
question for
Sure.
you, Michael, and it is a little nuanced. So a question that's in the chat is about page 7 of the speech contest rule books. It's D1 through 3. I don't know if you want to pull it up, but it talks about being a member of Toastmasters for a certain time. And Denise is wondering if that means you have to be a member of that specific club in that specific district for that amount of time, or if it's just you just have to be a member in general, because she is a member of District 21 and District 96. So she's only been in the District 96 club for a couple months. So she's wondering, does she need to be in that club for that amount of time to be considered for a judge or a contestant?
No, it's for Toastmasters in general. It's not for a specific subdivision like district, division, area, or club. That's fine. If TI thinks you've been a member for 6 months or more, you're good. Yeah,
Awesome.
you could, yeah, if you've moved recently, that will not prevent you from serving in those roles if you've completed the minimum of 6 months.
Well, the reason I asked is because it could actually set up a situation where you can bring in somebody who's a really good speaker from another district and have them represent your club, and they've only been there a month. And I can see that would be a problem. But if you have been a member for a long time in a club, and then you're asked to judge, say, in another, and you're not a contestant, let's say, but you're asked to judge in another district, you shouldn't have to say, well, you're not a member of that club or you're not a member of that district. You should be able to judge based on the amount of time you have in Toastmasters, but it doesn't actually specify. And I did talk to somebody about it and who knows all about the rules in District 21. They said I should ask TMI just to be clear, because they don't want me disqualified as a judge.
Right. Yeah, if you have questions about the interpretation, definitely double check with Toastmasters International. Since it doesn't specify that it has to be with a specific club, area, division, etc., it really shouldn't be something that's an issue, because they, generally speaking, if it's an issue, they specifically spell it out and say whether the conflict arises from being a member of that club or area or whatever. For more than a particular amount of time or something like that. If it is an issue, they almost always specify it.
Thank you so much. I will stop spotlighting you, Denise. I appreciate you
Okay.
asking this question. And I do think in these situations, asking TMI is always the best. And then that way everybody just knows and there's no gray area. But there's another question in the chat. I think I have it answered, but I want to double check with Michael. Is 6 months minimum to be a contestant as well as a judge?
It is not. The requirements are be a paid member. That's for the international, not me, evaluation contest. That's the correct way to say it.
Okay.
It's only the international speech contest that has additional requirements. You need to be a paid member from a club in good standing, and also have completed the levels 1 and 2 of any path under pathways to be ineligible as an international speech contestant. But that is not does not apply to the judges. As I've mentioned before, the issue is you can be under the old system, you could have the 6 speeches and qualify, whereas that wouldn't allow you to be a contestant, but it would allow you to be a judge. And the 6-month minimum applies to being a judge at the area or above. It does not apply to contestants.
Thank you, Michael. And I do see that. I pulled up the rules. It's on page 7. D3 is where it says just for the judges. And it says 6 months for the international speech contest too. So you could even be a judge there.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, there's slight differences between the eligibility requirements for contestants and the judges, but they definitely let's see here, recent. Okay. I'll see about looking for that, but what you can do is go to TI and search for item 1171. And that is the speech contest rule book, and that will give you a link to the current speech contest rule book. And that's what you should always use as opposed to whatever one they happen to include with the speech contest kits, because the international speech contest kit is almost always correct, but depending on when you pull it from TI, it might be slightly delayed, but without a doubt, make sure that you have the correct year's speech contest rule book, 23 to 24. That's what you want. And yeah, if it looks like the link has been placed in the chat, so look for that. Or if all else fails, you lose the link, search for item 1171 on the TI website, and you'll be able to get the appropriate page on the TI website. Okay. Other questions?
We have one more from Denise.
Yeah, I just got a question about the tie-breaking judge. So with the tie-breaking judge, let's supposing that you have a tie between two contestants. Does the tie-breaking judge already have their list down, or do they look at those two contestants and decide between the two contestants? Because they
No.
may choose 3 other people altogether. So
The
I
way-
just wonder what happened
okay,
on that.
what happens is that they receive a slightly different ballot than the regular voting judges. Instead of having places for 1, 2, and 3, they have a list for as many contestants as there are contestants in the contest, and then they would put them in order for them. So what happens is, if you're the chief judge, there's a tie, and I've done this as chief judge. Okay, tie. Then I go to and refer to the tiebreakers judge ballot. Okay, looks like the highest ranked person that's on their list, they are the winner for that particular place. Like, for instance, like for first place is obvious. It's like, okay, the highest ranked person, if there's a tie for first, they get to be the winner. The other people, you'll break if necessary. Like if there were 3 or more, and then the next highest ranked and the next highest ranked. So you'd have 2 and 3 that way. But you can also have ties for, like, say, third place. So someone is either third place or they've just simply placed. They participated. Then again, it's like, okay, of the people that are tied for third place, okay, this person's highest rank, they get third place. The other person just as a contestant. So,
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, they're not having to go back and compare the two directly. It's just simply their list has every single contestant in that contest ranked, and then that breaks the tie. Okay. Other concerns, questions,
I think at this point
clarifications?
we've cleared the chat questions.
Okay.
So if someone has a question, you can come off mute or raise your hand or just put it in the chat. Whatever you feel the
Okay.
most comfortable with. Christine has a question.
Okay.
Did I hear you say that for someone to take part in the evaluation, they only had to be a member? They didn't have to be at level 2 for any of the
That is
pathways?
correct. The international speech contest is the only
Okay,
contest in
that's good
Toastmasters
to know.
that has the levels 1 and 2 minimum requirement. Everyone else, you just need to be a member of a club, a paid member from a club in good standing. So they haven't fallen below 8 paid members at the time of that particular contest. And it does happen occasionally. If the contest happened where the next level happens after the renewal period, and the particular club that only then falls below 8 paid members, that can disqualify a contestant representing their club.
Okay.
And it's very sad when it happens, but it definitely is something to be concerned about as a contestant. And also for contest chairs for maintaining eligibility. There's a little tool on TI for eligibility assistant that you can help to look for eligibility assistant, and I think it's in Club Central.
It is,
and you'll
yeah.
be able to verify. Okay, yes, they're a contestant that's paid, and also their club is in good standing, because that is definitely a concern, particularly as you get to the higher levels, because they will have occurred after the renewal period. So some contestants could be ineligible to compete then where they were at when they were perfectly eligible before the renewal period. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christine. Any other questions? None are in the chat. So
I guess, sorry, I've got lots of questions. One more
We love it.
question. So I know that the judges are the only ones who can say that a speech is a copy of another speech, let's
Contestants
say.
can as well.
Okay, contestants as well. What if you find out afterwards that it's a copy of another speech?
At that, unfortunately, you can't retroactively do that. The challenge must be made during the contest before results are announced. Obviously, that would have implications for future contests, especially if people know for going forward. It's like, okay, they use exactly the same speech and same qualification issues. At that point, somebody could raise the disqualification challenge, and the chief judge would be able to adjudicate that at that level. But yeah, retroactively, unfortunately, nothing can really be done. It has to be raised before the announcements are for places are made, and you have time for the chief judge to look at and review the issue and adjudicate it. That chief judge is not being perfect in any way, shape, or form. Things can fall through the cracks, and only later it's found. But again, it would really only impact contests going forward from that. Unfortunately, if it slipped through the cracks, the results still stand.
okay, thank you, Denise. Any other questions on your mind? Okay,
Hi, I have a question if
Sure.
you can hear me.
excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, our club has 3 contestants for the speech contest. We do want to hold a club contest, but we may not have enough volunteers for judges. And we purely just want to give the contestants a chance to practice. So somebody suggested that we call it a mock contest. So we would stick it to the rules as much as possible, but it's not a real contest. So that to give us some flexibility to still nominate
Sure.
a person. Is that sort of a good idea?
That is something that's permissible, and it must be clear that it is not an official Toastmasters contest. It could be a mock contest. It could be a international speech and evaluation party, however you wish to describe it. But by calling it a contest, you basically incur the responsibility of applying the official Toastmasters rules to the contest. If it's not a contest, you're free to do whatever you need to do to make it work. For instance, if you just have during the course of a regular meeting, you have a special business meeting during the course of your club meeting and go, okay, we would need to decide who's going to represent our club at the area contest. And it's like you can have people nominate whomever it's going to be, and you go through your process of voting that in, do that, and then send the results to your area director, and they'll make sure that the contest chair for the area contest will have that information. It definitely gives you a lot of flexibility at the club level. The flexibility gets lost, however, if you call it a contest directly. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And one more question is, we need a test speaker for the evaluation contest.
Mhm.
So we are thinking of inviting someone from outside the club.
Mhm.
Are there any rules to do with what a test speaker would not be appropriate?
What would be, clubs again have a lot of flexibility, and because they're at a level where conflicts aren't as much of a concern, I think just to avoid conflicts from the perspective of the test speaker, make sure that it would be something that wouldn't have invalidate them at a later point. It's not so much that they will be invalidated from competing in this. Let's say you have somebody who's a well-known speaker from another area or division, and they haven't decided whether they're going to compete or not.
Okay.
so much in so much as, well, for the evaluation contest, that means that that could potentially mean that if that somebody from that club ends up being a judge, that would be a little inappropriate, although it wouldn't disqualify them inherently. It's just, we want to avoid situations where under the appearance of impropriety is in play. But you have a lot of flexibility. It's just more of apply your best judgment on that. You just don't want to make it awkward for your test speaker.
Right, because hypothetically, there is a good speaker in another division, right? I'm from D96. So hypothetically, there could be a great speaker that is a contestant in the speech contest in another division who would want more practice. So if we are going to invite this person as the test speaker for the evaluation contest, would that be a conflict?
At the club level, probably not. But it's just a matter, again, of my situation is I would just try to avoid making things awkward in any way for the test speaker, whether it's spelled out in the rule book or not. It's just something as a courtesy to them.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine. These are great questions. Any other questions? I did have one private question that maybe Michael, you just want to address for the recording.
Sure.
If it's a mock question, a mock contest, and a contestant goes overtime or undertime, does that mean it's a real disqualification, or can you just allow them to proceed if it's a mock contest?
Yeah. Now, certainly if it is a contest, if they're disqualified, they don't get to compete beyond that point. Again, that's one of the, like I was saying earlier, the key is that if you call it a contest, you incur all the responsibilities of following the contest rules. Now, if you have a mock contest, yeah, theoretically you could definitely have that, especially if disqualifying people means you have no representatives that you can send forward. It is kind of helpful to simulate as most of this conditions of a real contest, because you really don't want to do this to the contestant where they're getting used to going overtime. It's not going to help them going forward, because typically speaking, the same speech delivered at each level higher up will generally take a little more time at each level. So for an international speech contest, if you target 6 minutes at the club level, that will make sure you have enough cushion so that you do not go over time if you compete at the district level. It would have gained a few seconds here and there at area, and then so on for division, and then some more for the district contest. Just don't get them used to the idea of being comfortable with going over time, because it will count at the area level or beyond. Yeah, if you don't call it a contest, doable, but not recommended. Does that make sense?
Yes, that is a much better answer than what I gave in chat. So I appreciate you being thorough with that response. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, I just have a question about, so being a judge, if you have completed an entire path and are now on level 1 of a second path, are you eligible to be a judge, or do you have to be?
No. Yeah, if you've completed an entire path, you by definition have completed level 1 and 2 of a path. And it doesn't make sense to disqualify people. Oh, you've completed level 5. Okay, you're starting over again in another path. No, you're perfectly fine. You're completely eligible.
Great, that's what I thought. Thanks.
As a contestant or a judge. So.
Thank you, Andrea. I actually do think it is confusing sometimes with how Toastmasters displays your credential.
Mhm.
because they're only showing the credential that you're like currently working on. So it may list me, or it was listing me as like Sarah Ranchler LD2, even though I had finished EH5. And I was
Mhm.
just like, oh, but trust me, they know, and the eligibility checker will know
Yeah.
that you are eligible indeed.
Yeah, and that was really my question, is whether or not, yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good point about the eligibility assistant from the TI website. Yeah, that will definitely reflect all of the path information, even if your title in the club roster doesn't show it correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So it's one of those oddball things. I mean, there's definitely some oddities in terms of the differentiation between a contestant and a judge in terms of eligibility, like the international speech contest. Under the old system, the legacy system prior to Pathways, if you completed your DTM like I did under the old system, you're still eligible to compete. But on the other hand, if you're somebody who only say got to advanced communicator gold or whatever, and you didn't quite complete your DTM, the strange part is that if you haven't completed levels 1 and 2, you are no longer eligible to compete in the international speech contest. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but those are the rules. But you would be able to be an appropriate contest judge on the other hand, because if you've clearly completed more than 6 speeches from the CC manual under the old system. It's kind of weird, but over time that will be less and less of an issue since it will apply to fewer and fewer people. Okay.
If you're a contest judge, how do you find out what levels the judges have completed?
You're a judge. You should know your own level of completion, and the contest chair and the chief judge for that contest should know that. It's something that, and you certify that you are eligible to be a judge when you sign the judge's certification of eligibility and code of ethics. So that's something that's part of the whole certification of eligibility. You're saying, I, in fact, meet the criteria necessary to be a judge.
So like an
No.
individual judge doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
But the contest chair and the chief judge will make sure using the eligibility checker at whatever level. So if it's your club contest, your club officers will use that. If it's an area contest, the area directors will have access to that information. And then so on. And so
Yeah.
like at my level, at the district level, I have that information for any District 2 member.
Okay, and then in area, let's say it's an area contest, and in our club, we only can send 1 judge, but other clubs can send 2 judges. Is
And
that allowed?
Rule that we had before, equal representation of voting judges. If you're at an area contest and you have judges from that particular area, every club must be represented equally in the case of the voting judges. Like
That's in the rules too.
Those are in the rules. Study them, and that's definitely more of an issue for the contest chief judge and the contest chair than it is for the individual judges. But yeah, it's if you are a judge and you notice it's, oh hey, these other clubs have more than 1 judge represented as voting judges. Yeah, that's something appropriate to bring up with the contest officials, because yeah, you don't want anything to derail the contests in any form. But generally speaking, you should the chief judge and contest chair for that particular contest should be looking for that. That's specifically something that they're going to be doing, because you just want absolutely nothing to affect the integrity of the contest.
All right.
Kendra?
I have a question.
Okay.
If you are competing, like say an area, for the international evaluation contest and you don't make it, could you serve as a judge further along from that point, or would you want to hesitate to use them if they've already competed?
Yeah, if there are no, this is also kind of confusing depending on the level. For instance, you can only compete in one area contest per contest. Let's say you're a member of Club A, and you're also a member of Club B. You're representing Club A in the international speech contest, and you're representing Club B in the evaluation contest. You could definitely be in different areas for contests, but only with the caveat that one of them is for the international speech contest and one of them is for the evaluation contest. You can't have a situation where you're competing in two area contests of the same contest type. You can't be a contestant in two area international speech contests or two evaluation contests at the area level. Does that make sense? And that also applies if you happen to live close to the border of two districts. That area limitation applies even if you're talking about one area in one district and then the other area is in another district. So that applies in either case.
They wouldn't be able to be a judge later if they were.
It's like, for instance, once you're out of the cycle, you like say at the division contest, you lost out an area, that would no longer disqualify you. It's if you're continuing on, that's the what disqualifies you. If you're completely out of that particular contest, the conflict is dropped, but not including the issue of making sure that the appropriate area, club area and divisions representation isn't upset. But yeah, if you terminate at the area level, you can be a judge at the division level or contest official once you're out of the process. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you, Kendra. And that is also why we added a deadline for club contests this year, because we've had issues in the past with what we call area contest shopping, where people will wait until they see who the other contestants are for certain areas before submitting their names. And that's just wholly unfair. So we're putting a limit on it. You have to just decide at this date before you know who is going to compete against you, and trying to eliminate any favoritism or gaming the system.
Yeah, I think I saw something in the chat regarding how do we train the other
Mackenzie.
judges?
Yeah, Mackenzie, how do we train other judges?
Okay. As Sarah had mentioned, this is being recorded. This will help. But there's also two separate contest chair training videos available on the D2 YouTube channel. One from me and one from Karen Axelrad. If you're a contest chair, Karen Axelrad's video will be more helpful. If you're just looking at more for a greater, broader overview for the other contestant or not contestant, but contest roles, mine will address pretty much most of the same content. Although I think Karen's is probably more detailed with respect to the actual contest officials. But yeah, the District 2 YouTube channel, I'm going to make a plug for it because there's a whole amount, a ton of videos on various subjects, including for the contests on there that exist. But remember, when there's information on there, especially if it's a dated video, make sure that it doesn't conflict with the new rules, because there's always the possibility that something will be tweaked from one year to the next. So make sure that if there's a conflict, always go with the current year's rule book. Do not rely on what was correct last year or the year before that or the year before that. Only what's valid this year. But by and large, the general logistics and some of the other questions, all of those will still apply. So they're helpful in terms of that. But yeah, Sarah is recording this, and this will be available for the people who aren't able to attend today. So,
Yes, so
to
you
get them
can
up to
send
speed,
this
put them on
to-
this.
yeah.
And I put in the chat my email address. So if you have questions on that, you can contact me as a district chief judge, and I can answer some questions that didn't occur to you this morning. So
I put those links that Michael plugged into the chat, so you can watch those as well. The idea we had was to actually give all of these 3 trainings, this training and then the 2 I just put in the chat, together in person at one big event, but we couldn't get the venue in time, so we split it up into 3 different Zoom trainings. So they are, all 3 of them are supposed to be complimentary. And now that they're on YouTube, you can watch them at 2 times speed, send them to your team, send them to whoever you like, but they are high quality trainings, and I do recommend watching them if you are running a contest soon. Any other questions? It seems the questions have died down. Even Denise is just happy. She doesn't have any questions left. We love it. All right, I think I should stop the recording now. I would like to thank Michael for being here, and thank you all for your wonderful questions. It makes this content really rich for the people who consume it later on. Thank you, and enjoy the sunshine out there.